PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's here to keep you company and help you fall asleep. I'm so glad you're here. I'm clasping my hands, I'm leaning forward and hoping to keep you company and take your mind off so you can fall asleep. If you're new to the show, this podcast is here because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a safe place where you can get the rest you need. This is a silly distraction and a friend to keep you company, just like if you're going to call someone and say, hey, talk to me about some strange, silly stuff. Tell me a story. But I need your help for about an hour or 8 hours, whatever it is. You'll hear more about it. But yeah, I'm so glad you're here. And the structure of the show is first we'll have some support, then we'll have an intro where I'll talk about the podcast and kind of set things up and kind of go off on more tangents. And then we'll have a visit, kind of a lulling visit to a theme park in the autumn season full of autumnal joy. So it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. And here's a couple of ways I'm able to do it for you for free twice a week. And if you want to find out more, sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. Hey, everybody, it's Scoots. You're hearing me kind of talk about supporting the podcast and stuff. And I thought of this analogy, and I don't know if you'll relate to it because people say, well, what does it mean direct response sponsors, sponsors that support the show based on the support they get, or why should I pay for a free podcast? And I don't know. One thing I thought of is like Sleep With Me is a little bit like, I don't know if you have a favorite restaurant that you're a regular at, that you go to on a regular basis, but what if there was a restaurant you really loved? Maybe it is the restaurant you love, and you know the people that work there, they put a ton of work and care and attention into the dishes they serve, and maybe you eat there once a week or twice a week. And what if the food was free, like paying for it was optional, right? I guess a little bit like tipping, but this is different. We serve all our meals for free. Paying for the food is up to you. Now, here's a little statistic about Sleep With Me. Just imagine that the restaurant is full of 100 people or 100 tables. And, this thing with Sleep With Me is if 3 people out of every 100 support the show can get by and keep going. And if 5 people, so you're in a dining room with 100 people eating a free meal, if just 5 of those people, and I don't know if you're one of them, pays for the free podcast, the show can flourish. So I don't know if you're one of those 3 people or 5 people total. If you're one of those 5 people, this podcast can be not just be here, but be flourishing. And again, everybody else gets to eat for free, which is cool. And I don't know if that resonates with you. I mean, only if you're a regular and you get a lot out of it and you're in a position to do so. We just need 5 people out of every 100 people to take action and support the show. And I'd love it if you could do it. Please support the show. Become a patron. You get ad-free episodes. You don't have to hear these messages, but you get a bunch of other sweet bonus content. But really, you get that idea of like, hey, one of those 5 people paying, and everybody else, look at that. Look at this banquet of lulling, soothing tones. So I don't know, it's just an analogy I thought of the other day, and I don't know if it resonates with you or not. If it does, sign up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Thanks. All right, everybody. It is time for a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. And, there's so many times during my day, during my week, during my month, I get stuck focused on problems instead of solutions, whether it's working on the podcast, whether it's parenting, or just things I encounter in day-to-day life, even in the grocery store, focused on the problems, not on the solutions. And it can be really tough to train your brain to not be in that problem-solving mode all of the time, but to be able to have the resources you need when you're faced with a challenge in life. But when you get that, when you're able to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. And a therapist can help you become a better better problem solver, and that makes it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. I mean, these are the kind of things I bring up in my therapy that week. Even on the half the time, it's like the stuff I was thinking about before I went into therapy. But I'm able to talk to my therapist about anything. But normally it is the problems and the challenges, or my view of the problems versus, oh, this is a challenge or opportunity. And that's a resource I count on to improve my life, to improve the lives of the people around me. It reduces my stress. It makes my life more livable. And that's why I recommend therapy as a resource all the time to people in my personal life. So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/sleepwithme today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. All right, everybody, it is time to talk about tonight's sponsor, Helix, and I am back in the arms of my Helix Dusk Luxe, the mattress I got matched with when I took that Helix quiz, because I sleep hot, I toss and turn, I sleep on my side, I sleep on my stomach. I was away from that mattress for a week, and I've never been happier. I love my Helix Dusk Luxe, and it's not just me. So many of my family members have different Helixes, because they took the Helix quiz at helixsleep.com/sleep, got matched with a mattress that is best for them. Helix is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup includes 14 unique mattresses, including a collection of luxury models, a mattress for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. So how do you know which Helix mattress will work best for you? You take that Helix quiz. You'll find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes, and that'll be shipped straight to your door, free of charge. And not only that, Helix knows the best way to test a mattress out is by sleeping on it at home. And that's why they offer a 100-night risk-free trial. So you can test it out, see how your body adjusts. And if you decide it's not the best fit, you send it back for a full refund. And like I said, hey, everybody sleeps differently. Helix has got all those different models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep preferences and sleep positions. You know, you got memory foam if you sleep on your side for optimal pressure relief. There's a more responsive foam that cradles your body if you're in a back sleeping position. There's enhanced cooling features for people like me who don't want to overheat at night. And if your spine needs some extra TLC, every Helix mattress has a hybrid design combining individually wrapped coils in the base with premium foam layers on top. Perfect combination of comfort and support. Setup is fast and easy. Like I said, shipped to your door for free. Helix mattresses are American made. They come with a 10 or 15-year warranty, and you get to try it out for those 100 nights risk-free. So if for some reason you don't love it, I mean, I know you will, but if you don't, they pick it up for you, give you a full refund. And Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners if you go to helixsleep.com/sleep. With Helix, better sleep starts now. So get over there, take that Helix quiz, helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, it is time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone. It's the one part of the podcast I need to hear. It's where I thank the listeners who support the sponsors. And right now, we don't have anyone to thank. I am making some changes on the back end because the sponsors really are what keep the show coming out for free twice a week. So I'm on it making changes so you don't got to worry about the podcast going away. But if you want to help, you want to be a part of, make sure to use that link, sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors, even giving feedback, but checking sponsors out, letting them know you supported them. It's a huge help. I appreciate it. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. And if you support one of those sponsors, let me know about it so I can thank you right here on the Sleepy Supporter Zone. And you can be a part of this Deep Dark United thing we're doing simply by using that link and being a participant in the show. Thank you so much. That's the first part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The second part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone is about you getting the support you need right now. If you're having a tough time and you need extra resources, there's links to there's links in our show notes to resources you could connect with, including internationally. Please use those resources. It's also about being a part of communities, being a part of positive change. Scoots is someone who's, I've tried to change for the better by learning more, taking positive action. And there's links to the show notes where you could do that. Not just say Black Lives Matter, not just say stop API hate, not just say support Ukraine, but learn more and take positive action. Be a part of positive change. One of the things we're doing as a Sleep With Me community is building hygiene kits for people experiencing homelessness. And guess what? You can participate for free. Just be a part of, come hang out, watch a live show, maybe build some hygiene kits, maybe connect with other listeners, maybe buy some hygiene kits. You could learn more. There's a newsletter. It's only about building hygiene kits and when we do the free live streams. And that's at sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission, sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission. And that's the end of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. Oh, Mystery Bard. A lot of people help out on this show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Posterson sounds like a near fall. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. Don't forget, if you want some sleep phones, the most comfortable way to get listen to Sleep With Me branded sleep phones, you can get them at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep-phones, sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep-phones, and use Sleep With Me to get a nice discount on your order. Thanks, everybody. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether that's thoughts on your mind, things you're thinking about. So thoughts, any feelings, anything you're feeling physically coming up for you, or emotionally coming up for you, like about the past, the present, the future, related to the thoughts, physical feelings, or the emotions. Things that could just be there. It could be changes in time or temperature or routine. It could be something else. Whatever it is that's keeping you awake. The most important things for you to know is, like, while I might not know exactly what you're going through, I can relate to some of the feelings. And if I can't relate to them, someone out there that's listening right now probably can relate to what you're going through. They know how it feels. And for most of us, it doesn't feel great. That's one of the reasons I make the show. The other reason I make the show is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place you could get some rest, or whatever is keeping you awake. You could have a little distance from that. You have a bedtime you don't dread, so your life is more manageable tomorrow. That's what's important to me. That's the most important thing about the show. That if you get the rest you need, your life's going to be better. That means the entire world we live in will be a better place, and that is true. If you're rested and your day's a little bit better. So that's why I make the show. Now, this podcast does not work for everybody. And some people, you may already realize, I'm not sure I like you or the show. So I'll tell you, for most people that are fans of the show that pay to support the podcast, they agree with you. They say it takes two or three tries to get used to this podcast. So that's the majority of people's experience. But for some people, this podcast just won't work, or you just won't like it. And that's totally fine, too. I have a list of other stuff. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. And you could check out, there's other sleep podcasts on there and other sleepy audio and stuff like that. So check that out if you're already like, you know what, this show is not for me. That's cool. I still want you to get the sleep you need and deserve. It's still important. So keep trying. But if you're skeptical or doubtful, but you're like, well, I'll check it out. I'm willing to check it out. I'm willing to try anything. That's why I started the show. I said, I need something a little bit different. And isn't anybody looking for something a little bit different? Someone to keep them company with no pressure to listen or to fall asleep. And so that's what this show kind of is. And what I'll do is I'll send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'll use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, and superfluous tangents. So that means my voice is not traditionally soothing. I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to get mixed up. I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to forget what I was talking about, all that stuff. But all of it is to keep you company and take your mind off stuff so you fall asleep. So like I kind of said earlier, this is a podcast you don't really listen to. You kind of just barely pay attention, just like it's a little bit out of focus. Like a podcast, you say, okay, I kind of know what you're talking. Like I'm kind of paying attention, but just barely. We've all been in that situation during the day, and we have feelings about it because you say, well, you're supposed to be listening to that person, or you're supposed to be paying attention in class. Or even like, do you remember what that movie was about? I don't know, like that person with the cape. I don't know. I was checking. I missed part of it because I was checking my phone, and so no, I wasn't. Like, but people say you weren't really paying attention. My goodness, that's never happened on planet Earth before. You say, really? That's part of my brain talks to me like that. That was pretty extreme. And that's like not the extreme version of what it sounds like during the day. But that's sometimes how my reaction to myself is. You say, I don't think anybody, what kind of person doesn't pay 100%? You can't put your phone down for a 2.5 hour movie? And I said, well, if I'm in the movie theater, I can. And if I'm at home, I aspire to. But you got me, gotcha brain, the old gotcha brain. There was a movie called Gotcha, and it came out, it was about, like, you know how Nerf is popular with, I think what they are, like little water balls now, and you play water ball tag. And there was actually an episode of Ted Lasso about this. Back then, they were, instead of just water, they were paint. And it's different than paintball, because paintball is like a little bit more, like this was a lighter version of it. Cause those ones, you say, owie. These ones were back when, but anyway, there was a whole movie about that. And it starred Goose from the original Top Gun, who was also in a procedural TV show on NBC in the 90s or the aughts. Anthony Edwards, not the NBA Anthony Edwards, different Anthony Edwards. But so, anyway, what was my point? Go way off field. Oh, this is a podcast you don't really listen to. You just kind of barely pay attention, and that's okay. That was my main point. You say, oh, okay. And no, like I stopped paying attention when you try to explain, what were you trying to explain again? Gotcha. I think there was a song for that movie that was, that is in my head. That was like one of the movies that was, I would just watch, because this is the way it was, kids, back when we had, linear television. If something that was on that was just okay, you'd like, at least me, I can't speak for my entire generation, but I think I am. I would just watch it. I'd say, oh, this Gotcha movie's pretty good. Pretty not bad. I'm going to have to rewatch it. And so I like Anthony Edwards, and I kind of remember the rest of the cast. It was it was nothing like, what was that movie called? Space Quest? What was that one? It was one of those mistaken identity movies. So, Oh, you may be don't mistake the identity of this podcast with something that makes sense. So yeah, this is a podcast you don't really listen to. It also doesn't put you to sleep. There's no pressure to fall asleep here. I'm going to be here to the very end if you can't sleep or you just need company. I'm here to be your bore bae, your bore sib, your bore bud, your bore bestie, your bore burr, your neighbor, your bore friend. To keep you company in the deep dark night while you fall asleep, just to take your mind off of stuff. And to be here, that's it. And then you fall asleep. You say, okay, I did stop listening and fall. That's ideal breakfast conversation after sleep with me. You say, what was Scoots talking about last night? I don't know, something about mistaken Nerf and mistaken identities and water balls. I don't know. I don't even know what a water ball is. It's more like, it's like a miniature water balloon. I think, but I don't know. I don't know what he was talking about, but fell asleep. So it's a podcast you don't really listen to, doesn't really put you to sleep. It's here to keep you company, or if you need a break during the day, or you can't sleep at all, I'm here. There's also people that listen to episode after episode after episode all night long. So if you're new, those are a couple things to know. The other thing to know is the structure of the show is very different, and it's designed in a very deliberate way, but there are ways to adjust the show as you become a regular listener. So let me explain to you the layout. Show starts out with the greeting, friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And then I say something else, so you feel seen and welcomed in. Then there's support for the show, so the podcast can be free and come out twice a week regularly we've been doing this almost 10 years now. So, actually, when this episode comes out, it'll be the 9th year making the podcast and coming up on the 10th calendar year. So, yeah, that's pretty cool for free. So that's the sponsors and the listener support enable us to do that. Then there's an intro, which is separate from the support. And we're like 12 minutes in or 10 minutes into the intro where I go on and on and on explaining what the podcast is. I'm not successful, but it is a show within a show that serves a few purposes. One, it inefficiently tells a new person what to expect. And it gives you kind of sampling of what the podcast is like and what I'm like. Two, it's different every time. So regular listeners know, okay, the intro is going to follow a similar structure. It's going to be somewhere, it could be 10 minutes, could be 18 minutes, could be 11 minutes, could be 17 minutes, maybe 13, could be 12, it might be 21 minutes. But I know Scoots is going to be there trying to explain what his podcast is and getting distracted. But I know it's going to be different every time, so my brain never quite adjusts. And I also know it's going to be part of my wind down routine. For most listeners, there are listeners that fall asleep during the intro. There are listeners, 2% or so, that skip the intro. But for most listeners, the intro and the start of the podcast is designed to ease you into bedtime, to be a twilight between whatever, your evening and falling asleep. So whether you're getting comfortable or you're doing some other chill activity, that's what the intro is really here for, is to ease you into bedtime and for me not to successfully explain what the podcast is. So that's the intro. Then there's, again, support for the show between the intro and the bedtime story, so the show can be free. And then there's a bedtime story. Tonight we'll have a guest on, my neighbor Ray Perkins, talking about autumnal joy at a avant-garde display of autumnal joy. I think. I don't know how accurate any of that is, but he'll be rambling and put you to sleep. It'll be really nice. And then there's some thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show. It's why I make the show. And I'm really glad you're here. I really appreciate your time and checking this podcast out. And you're a nice driver. I work really hard. I really hope I can help you fall asleep. Thanks again for stopping by. And here's a couple of ways I'm able to do this for you for free twice a week. Sleep With Me is brought to you by Progressive. Have you tried the Name Your Price tool yet? It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to find a rate that works for you. It's just one of the many ways you could save with Progressive. Get your quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. All right, everybody, this is Scoots here, and this is a seasonal episode, but I guess it'll be kind of timeless, where my neighbor Ray comes in, and so this is a new style Ray episode, and anybody that is part of our Midnight Mission newsletter helping us build hygiene kits, you may have seen this already in the live show, or those of you that came in person or online for free, or patrons, you probably heard this. We kind of did a live show about how can we help Ray make this episode, because this is a new territory for Ray, not a Disney theme park, not a Universal theme park. And if you're new to this podcast, Ray Perkins is my neighbor. He's the most well-adjusted person I've ever met. Super kind, loves theme parks, loves adventuring. And he just will he's going to run through our experience. He's got my notebook, and it'll be cool. So without further ado, my neighbor, Ray Perkins. Hello, everybody. This is your friend Ray, your neighbor Ray. Hello. So good to be here in your ears. Scooter, thank you for that introduction. My name is Ray Perkins. I'm a member of the Deep Dark Night United. So glad to be a member here in the Deep Dark Night with all of yous. And to be your friend and keep you company. Really my honor. And it's also my honor to be a friend with Scooter, little Andy, as I call him, or the pod boy. And you have known him for quite some time. I knew him before I knew him, but I knew him. I was his neighbor back in, I don't know what year it started, but we'll say 2010, just for brevity's sake. And I didn't really, I talked to him, but he didn't acknowledge my existence till about 2013. He lived in a apartment, which was 4 units, a home that at some point a long time ago had been divided into 4 apartments, or 4 unit, but you can't say it's an apartment building because it looks like a house. And he would go into his apartment from the back. Most people did that lived there. Even though there was a front door, nobody seemed to use it. Now, Scooter had his dresser against his front door. It was just easier. There was a driveway, and that's where I'd see him, little Andy, trying to get by me. I lived next door in an apartment building next door, and I would see him, and I would try to make small talk with him or large talk, and he would just keep on walking. A lot of times he pretended he had earbuds in, even before there was earbuds. In 2010, and he'd put his phone, he'd smile at me and wave, but then he'd say, "Sorry, got a call here." But he was, it was worth the wait, being friends with him. Even when I'm friends with him, and it's worth the wait sometimes. But I come on the show and I get the honor of talking about little theme park trips I went on with Scooter, sometimes with his little one who's not so little anymore. And we got, last year, a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, when you're hearing this probably, we went to an event at a theme park at Knott's Berry Farm. And Scooter thought it'd be funny because it was a theme park after dark event for the autumn season. And it was a very long, they have a shorter description of it, not fun farm after dark. But the official title in Scooter's imagination is Knott's Berry Farm presents an interpretation an avant-garde interpretation of autumnal joy. But when they say autumnal interpretation, that's meaning Scooter's interpretation of that word. But so we went there. Now, Knott's Berry Farm. This was at night, and it's a separate ticketed event. And Scooter handled all of the details. Now, we did not stay we stayed in Anaheim, but not right by Knott's Berry Farm. And so I'm getting out his notebook, actually, which is not open to the page. Is this it here? Barking group. Walk to ride. No, that's not it there. 1245, 150. Here we go. So we took an Uber there, the three of us, and according to this, I'll explain it. We took an Uber there. We arrived at about 4:45, and we were in line to check in. And what does that mean? Done. Okay, so 4:45, and we ate for about an hour. So we went and we did a dining buffet package where you get to dine with, okay, so this is an interactive theater, more than theater in the round. It's theater in the surround, this Autumnal Joy event. So you're going to Knott's Berry Farm, not just so much to ride the rides. Now, you can ride the rides, and we did ride a few rides. But mostly you're going there to be immersed in performers, not that, well, pretty different than the Dickens Fair, but on the same level where you're going into like themed areas, and there's performers there. We call them AJPs, Autumnal Joy Performers, or AJPs, Autumnal Joy Providers. But so the thing started with, this was something Scooter purchased separately. And if he did it again, he said, I'm not so sure, but he'd have to look at the price. But he said, where you go and you eat, now you do get a buffet meal. And I'm pretty sure they had Knott's chicken. So and it was in the Knott's Berry Farm restaurant, but in the back at a buffet area. And you got yourself unlimited refills, though they refilled them for you. And I think it came in a souvenir cup that you could use in the park later that day. And what else? So there was buffet food. And now we didn't write down anything that we ate, but there was dessert. And while you're eating, the AJPs, the performers are going around. Now they're themed to their installations, their artistic installations, and there was a few different ones that like there was a large number of the performers were from installation called what was it called? Scooter had told me, and then I forgot. Like it's like the Old West. In the people from the Old West who have joined the Big Farm in the Sky, they're in the Big Farm in the Sky version of the Old West, and so a lot of them there, and they're saying, hey, and so they're very themed. They have Old West clothes. But their clothes, they no longer really need them because they're living in the big farm. So their clothes, they're not aware that they're deteriorating. And they've accumulated some dirt and stuff. And I asked them about it. I said, why is your clothes so covered in dirt? And they said, well, at the Big Farm in the Sky version of the Big West, we crawl around a lot. But they were going around. There was also people from a carnival themed area of Autumnal Joy, and they were there. And Scooter was not, like Scooter said, okay, but they were very friendly, and they were mostly there to interact with you and to let you know, to give you a little preview of what's to come, and take your pictures. You take your pictures with them. Then after we ate dinner, we checked in. Now, we were early. Now, Scooter did not know this. He thought maybe we would get a head start on the crowds. But really what we had was from 5:40 to about 6:15 just sitting around because we had finished eating, but the park wasn't open. Like they were still having people leave the park from the day. And so that did not work out well, especially for the young one, because her and I, we had never been to this before. Scooter had been to this event in when he lived in Los Angeles, and he had a very fond memory of it. He said, this was like a top-notch event, Ray, and I want to one day go back to it when my daughter's old enough to go and enjoy it. You know, avant-garde things, you know, they take, you know, something similar to suspension of disbelief, your suspension of need, you know, your suspension of, and I said, I understand, Scooter. So he said, this is the time, you know, and then he asked us, would you be interested in going to a strange seasonal event based on autumnal joy, but interpretations of it that, you know, may be, you know, not the same as your expectations. And she said, I will. But while we were waiting, we were getting nervous, the two of us, because we said, what does this even mean? And especially seeing performers walking around in character the whole time, it led us to believe, like, well, are we going to be able to accept, like, are we going to be able to do something similar to suspension of our disbelief? And will that be all right? But I think it was good because it provided some buildup. It wasn't great, though, because there wasn't really anywhere to sit down. There was, you know, so in the future, we would get there a little bit closer to 6:30. But at 6:15, the rides did open. And we went on the wooden roller coaster twice. And I can't read Scooter's notes, but I know we rode it at 6:15 and then 6:24. We went back on. It does say, wow, fun, and view. That I can see. It has a very good first drop. And for a wooden roller coaster, it's very smooth. And it's an old-fashioned wooden roller coaster, not the revamped versions. And then after that, we decided to start at 6:53 was our next note here. And it's not interpretation, you know, it's, so we had to walk. And as soon as it's getting dark now, not yet, but everything's immersive. There's a lot of fog machines so that you feel like you're in a dream. And there's like sound effects, and then there's performers. And so at least at some point around 6:53, we got in our first line. This says the Sandhouse or Sandhorse, then Druthers. But there is no Sandhouse, then Druthers. And let me just read through his notes, because I don't know if any of this. 703, third mirror, the dark or something. 705 is blank. 711 was the holiday show. 720, the depths. 728 again to the show again. 745, Madam T's, and then we left that part of the park. So in this part of the park, which was backstage normally, there was 4 different installations of different interpretations of what autumnal joy might mean. And these are very, I mean, I don't even know if this is avant-garde, but it's, I would say it's avant-garde to say, okay, just make your own interpretation of autumnal joy and pitch it to us, initially probably. And this one was very themed. The first one was called Madam T's. Now, I can tell you what it's based on is like, if you go to any tourist area here in the U.S., maybe even, I don't even know where else. I know in Niagara Falls, Fisherman's Wharf in Hollywood, there's a Madame Tussauds, or even Orlando has it. But there's a Madame Tussauds wax museum with like celebrities and historical figures. right? And you could go stand with different historical figures. And I don't know if they're actually made from wax, but that's what they're called. Originally, they're called wax museums. So this was a different take on it. It was celebrities making making stuff to celebrate the Halloween autumnal season. A lot of it, because they were working, you'd see the back sides. Like the first one I said, is that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, like putting out like a little like a cat and pumpkins? It's so cute. And different things like that. So you go through and you see celebrities and you say, okay, that celebrity's putting up lights, like Michael B. Jordan was painting in what do you call that, neon paints, and then the lights would change and they'd be glowing. And I think one had like Emma Thompson, and she was working with dry ice and making a bubbling cauldron. Then you move on and you see like children coming to the doors trick-or-treating, but none of this, it was mostly static. So that was like, it was a good preparer, but you're also immersing yourself, like you're becoming, it does best when you're like fully involved. So you say, okay, I'm not me. I'm a version of me who's in a tourist area somewhere else, who is paid to go to a museum where they're showing the celebrities celebrating autumnal joy. And then they also showed, how hard the celebrities work to make it perfect and spread their autumnal joy and showcase the seasonal fun. This is the second year we've presented this. This is from Knott's material here. And it's really going to be a fun time. Let's see what other notes we had here. Yeah, you go through, you see celebrities crafting and having fun, working with craft paper even. And a little interaction with you, like every once in a while. So there'd be a person pretending to be a celebrity, waxed celebrity, but mostly it was people that pretended they were working there, because it did take a lot of explanation. They'd say, oh no, that's Matt Damon and Ben Affleck decorating. And actually, I think they had where they were able to, because then they would come up with a story. I don't know if it was improv, but they'd say, oh no, every year they go to 5 houses and they decorate the houses for fans. And so it's refreshing and fun to just see and not to know where to know, okay, this is all fictional. So even what are those called? Pledges? The people that work at the museums. But yeah, it was cool. Then the next one was called The Depths. And Scooter was under the impression that this was about mining. And he said, I don't know, I guess it's about, because we said, Scooter, what is this? What should we expect? And at first there was a couple people in mining gears and there was mining equipment, so I don't think he was totally misinformed. And Scooter said, I think it's going to be how do miners celebrate autumnal joy. But really the plot ended up being miners searching for autumnal joy and what they discovered. So yeah, like a heavy fog shows a successful mine where deep inside the miners will find autumnal joy. The mining crew has looked and heard tale of autumnal joy deep within the earth. When they look, maybe they'll find it. Or will they enjoy their journey to discover autumnal joy? And so this was a second one to go on. The line was very short for this one because it was in the back left corner of these four installations. And it had one of the coolest things we ever saw. So the story kind of goes, they go in the mining and then they're kind of guessing, oh, let's go this way. And then they discover a world within our world where there's still autumnal joy. So part of it is below the earth, and part of it is like below water. And that was my favorite part, was the illusion. This was one of the coolest illusions Ray will tell you about. So you go into this one room, and there's green lasers or blue lasers, and there's fog. But the lasers are going around about your belly button level in a horizontal way. So it looks like the surface of the water. They're just a straight line. And the fog is like, so you see the fog and you say, okay. And then below the fog, below the lasers are inner earth friends. And they say, like, then out of the fog, they come and they say, oh, like, this is what we've learned from your autumnal joy. And they say, see, I'm jumping in a pile of leaves here. Even though they're like a water-based creature, they're fully sentient. And they say, oh boy, I really love this. And then there's other ones with ships, and I don't know if there's any pirates. And then there's other ones, like that aren't like water-based, but that was one that just stuck with me. I said, holy cow, this is interesting here. And what a ton of fun they were having. I mean, really seemed like a ton of fun. It was a ton of fun for us. And, you should go. I don't want to spoil it and tell you in case you're going this year, next year, and they still have this to say, what kind of autumnal joy but I will tell you, in the end, they say, it's the autumnal joy that lives in your hearts. And the people inside the earth, our friends there, they say, and it's the autumnal joy that lives in our hearts, or whatever is the version of the hearts are for us. Like one said, it's the autumnal joy that lives in my exoskeleton. So that was fun. Now, the next one after that, apparently it was based on a game that kids play on the phones or on the computer, like where they walk around a space station. So this was very powerful set design because you're going there to go on a space station and see in the future on a space station, how do they celebrate? Now, this is the initial concept, but of course, there's a story. There's always more to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. Now, these ones, unlike the first one, all performers, some on screen, some in person, some animatronics or special effects. But again, if you suspend your disbelief, it's all real. Oh, I found myself on a space station where I get to see how they celebrate the autumnal joy and express it. But what you quickly discover is that this spaceship it's a bit comedic. Like they've set out to celebrate autumnal joy, but nothing is going to plan. And so one of the things is based on, and it had what are those called again? Cookies, cupcakes or whatever. So one of them is like on Star Trek. It's a double Star Trek reference. One, it has a character who has asked the food moderator or whatever, the food amplifier, what is that called? The replicator or whatever. So it's not a replicator though, but it makes the thing on Star Trek that makes the food. They've asked it to make candy for the trick-or-treaters. And but the replicator has gone into like some sort of tribble mode. Now, if you look at the labels of the candy, and they did give you one piece of candy on the way out, the candy said tribble bars, which I thought was funny. but the machine just keeps making candy, and it was a special effect. So this person's up to the elbows in candy bars, and they're saying, stop replicating the candy bars. And then you walk around and you see them in like, some of them have like altered the monitors, so they're watching different Halloween specials on the monitors instead of doing the job. And, Houston's calling. I said, no, there's Halloween specials on the monitors. You're supposed to be looking at Pluto or whatever. You're giving James Webb a bad name. But so that was another thing. Then another one was a little gag with not with an airlock, but like the airlock has two phases. But like where the trick-or-treaters are on the inside of the airlock and they're trying to get the candy, and the people with the candy, they had switched positions or something. I don't know if I totally understood. I said, I'm not sure that's how airlocks work. Then there was a cute one, which took very good special effects. Now, they used a combination of lighting and strobe and fishing lines, I would assume, or magic. And so what do they call that? Like aerial artists, like you would see at the circus performing. And they were pretending to eat candy in zero gravity, which was, oh boy, was that exciting. So they're floating about in zero gravity and doing flips and trying to catch the candy. And then they had like like a stand type android figure saying, all the candy's short-circuiting me. The candy's short-circuiting me. Yeah, let's see. What do we got? In the backstage area with other neighbors, takes you to outer space on board an aircraft where nothing goes right. And fantastic, it's a really fun one. And it's in a back corner. I think we did it twice. But, this one, it was not as, it was good, but it was a little too out there, I guess, in outer space. This, like, I guess it was like the next one was so in depth, the levels they went to, that's probably another reason. So the next one was called, I forgot the name. I don't have it written down. The Great Halloween Investigators Investigation. The Great Halloween Decoration Investigation Investigators. That is a mouthful. But again, you're suspending. Now everything's themed. So you are an audience member in how you've gone, you're in line initially. Even when you're in line, it's themed. And there's people outside saying, okay, everybody, it's time, for another taping of your favorite show, The Great Halloween Decoration Investigation Investigators, with your favorite investigators. And we're going to try to get you inside. Hopefully we can fit everybody, but you stay patient. Don't worry. We're doing 3 tapings today, to where you almost, even though it's not really, say, okay, I hope I get in for this taping. Are they really only doing 3 tapings? Are they really taping anything? Then as you get closer, you get led into another area. And they are keeping count, and they say, okay, that's all we could fit for this next taping. And you say to the people, I'm sorry, I guess you can't get into this taping. And it's people pretending to be production assistants. And they're saying, okay, we're going to go inside to the warm-up room before we go into the tape. And now the Great Halloween Decoration Investigation Investigators, you also learn, in case you didn't know, because it's imaginary, is this is the top show on, Knott's TV, where these, the Great Halloween Investigation Investigators, they go around to the best decorated houses in the world and learn all the things of how they did it, all the tricks of the trade. and they're gonna, so that you can do them at home. And you say, okay, this sounds great. So then you get let into the next room. And this is where they were I think there was only one other house like this where where it's just really, in-depth theater. So then you go into another room and it's more people that are a little bit higher level production staff. And they say, here's the show we're taping, and the next taping that you're going to get to be a part of. Now, just make sure you follow all our directions. We don't want you to end up with pumpkin pie in your face. And they kind of go through and they kind of show a couple segments. Then they have a stand-up comedian to tell some jokes to warm up the crowd. And once they get you laughing, they say, okay, like everybody go in and take your seats. Make sure to follow our directions, follow the path. And what you realize, now there's 3 doors that open and you're supposed to go through the closest door. Now, spoiler alert, one thing, it doesn't matter because we didn't went out more than once. It doesn't matter which door you go through. And another spoiler alert, because it's kind of the part of the thing is that you never reach the taping. That's the point of the experience, and it's supposed to be funny. So you're basically going through, and then you go through all these different scenes where you can hear them taping, you can hear the audience cheering, and then sometimes you could see through like a hole, and they say, how do you make something look like, how does the strobe light effect work? We're here with the top strobe scientist, Dr. Bennington. And Dr. Bennington kind of shows how strobe effects work. And then you kind of see, I don't know, but basically you're just kind of going through backstage areas and seeing things, but all of it is, and a lot of it is like other shows being taped, and they say, what are you doing here? We're doing the baby dinosaur show. You're interrupting the trick-or-treating episode. So it's very fun. And I don't want to spoil, I know I spoiled the overall thing, but I don't want you to be stressed like we were. Being like, do we really have to find our way to the taping? No, you don't find your way to the taping. You do hear them. You do hear somebody wins the contest. You hear everybody cheering. But you just never reach the taping. And so we did do that a couple times. And that one seemed very, very popular, I guess because of the layers. And we did all of those attractions twice, which I was glad for. Now, they also have outdoors, the areas are themed. So we went through the Old West part of the park, which was covered in fog. So again, you had the characters walking around that would again be at the presentation we were. Now, this one was more dreamy, where there was people from the Wild West, or the American West, or whatever you want to say. And they're saying, oh, what do I want to dream? Like their ideas, their dreams of like what they want to do at the big I want to be an angel. I want to be someone's kitty cat, all those kind of things. This was very out there. But then you go to like this like a Wild West set installation. Again, it's like how the Wild West became the Wild West, big farm in the sky, Wild West or something. I don't know. Write it down. But we got in line at that 7:52. And what is strange is that initially, again, you're an observer, but sometimes they observe you observing them. So it's kind of like this one, you were in line. I mean, not directly, with other people from the Wild West in line. And they were in line because photographs were new or something. But they had a photo booth where you could dress up as something, but like with slightly autumnal themes for like a Wild West, just like at a theme park, you go, oh, you could dress up like you're in the Wild West. This was people in the Wild West dressing up like they were people in the Wild West, but with autumnal joy and getting the pictures taken. But what was it? That was the first room. Then the second room was that, like, and this was a bit of a leap, but it was a person like Lady Witchbeard, and she had been told she couldn't go, that there was no pirates in the Wild West. So she, in this next big room, like a big chamber, she was making a cauldron and saying, it's not okay to treat me that way. So now I'm going to make your town's dreams, go bye-bye to the big farm. And then it was like each person became their character. So let's see, like one person, I don't know, they dressed in all leaves. So then they kind of became a tree later on. And you would come upon them and like the sheriff, I think that's who it was. So you knew it was the sheriff, and they still had a sheriff's badge. But they were saying like they were just like a slow moving tree, like kind of like an ant, because they were still moving. But someone's saying, Sheriff, we need more water in the water troughs for all the horses. You got to get over there. And the sheriff wouldn't explain, wouldn't answer. They say, Sheriff, you're covered in leaves. So what's going on? Or another one was the saloon keeper. Had decided they were going to become like a tin man, but they were a rusted, frozen tin man, but they were still behind the bar at the saloon. So the people would come, give me 2 bits or whatever, a couple of shots of old gut juice or whatever, and then they wouldn't respond, the barkeep or whatever. Yeah, or like the piano player. They were yodeling. I don't know if that has to do with autumnal things, but they'd say, play me a song, Jenny. And she would just be yodeling. And they'd say, what kind of piano is that? And they'd say, yodel-a-hoo. So very avant-garde, I guess. After that, there's a new page. Oh, after that, we went on the Pony Express, which is a ride. And it's a bit like an earlier version. There's a ride in Universal now called Hagrid's, right? But this one is you ride on a pony. It's a roller coaster. It doesn't go upside down. But you sit on a pony. You're up in that position, leaning forward, riding like essentially a carousel horse. You are more secure, like there's something holding your back and your legs in, I think. So you are secure, and it goes pretty fast. But because you're in a different position, it feels like very interesting. So we went on that. We went on Fairy Tales, which is a 3D ride. There was a live band. There was also a 1920s prohibition newspaper newsies zone of how the people in prohibition, where they'd say pure pumpkin juice, no booze. That's all they did. And they said, breaking news, it's October, chill in the air. So, but that was fun. They'd say, like each newsie had a different, or they were singing the different headlines. Or there was competing prohibitions, and there was even a fake speakeasy. They said, you want to come in here? We got pumpkin juice, the real stuff here. Or real cider, hard. But it was a joke, I think. But there was also a band playing, unthemed band, but playing music about autumnal joy. Fairy Tales was just a Knott's Berry Farm ride. It had been a re-theme of an existing ride we really liked. That was steampunky and very cool and very out there. And Fairy Tales wasn't working, so it kept breaking down. So it was not a satisfying thing. Then we went on the Calico Mine ride. I thought there would be performers in there, but there was not. And I talked about that in another show. It's a very out there ride, very long. You just go on a train. It's not a roller coaster. There's a giant room in the middle, multiple levels of stories. I mean, just a very early dark ride that is still very impressive, even though it's simple. It's about people working and living in a mine. And I think most of the story that you project on it, or you would project on it. Then there was another very themed ride called Pretzel Ride. And they weren't talking, well, that was what was funny. It was a pretzel ride, but it wasn't a ride. You were going through watching people riding a pretzel ride, which is an early dark ride that you still see today, like at carnivals and stuff. So this was in the carnival zone. And this pretzel ride was based on a pretzel maker. So it was very meta because you were watching people going on a ride, watching a story about a pretzel maker. So I think it helped with the narration because you were able to watch the people riding the ride, commenting on the ride while they were watching. So 2 layers of performers. But the ride story was about the people's reaction to the story on the ride, which was about a pretzel maker and the greatest, who wanted to be the greatest pretzel maker in the world. But then they would, maybe they were, and they were dissatisfied. And they decided they would make a pumpkin pie spice or pumpkin spiced pretzel. And then everybody, and it had a bit of music to it, too, because at first they said, this is what I'm going to do. And people said, no, you make the best pretzels in the world. Don't do anything. Don't change it. And they said, I want to do more. I want to make seasonal goods. And people said, no, you can't do it. And then they cried, and they went off on a loan. Then they said they wouldn't make anything. Then people said, please be reasonable. I love your pretzels. And then they said, well, I'm going to try to delegate. And then the delegation didn't go good. Then they tried staying up and test. And then they couldn't even get the flavor right. And so they had smell-o-vision. Like one part, it's too pumpkin-y. Then another one, it's too sweet. And then finally they do what a lot of people do. They create a secondary personality. So then you get a third layer of autumnal joy where they're putting on a costume. They open a rival pretzel shop. Exciting stuff here. And they only sell seasonally flavored, and it's a mystery because they say it's a mysterious, and the person is playing it up. And then there's even the greatest pretzel competition in the world that the town, it's in Pretzelville, Pennsylvania, something. Every year they have the Great Pretzel Festival in the autumn. And the greatest pretzel maker in the world, and then the pumpkin spice pretzel that everybody loves, it comes in second, but the pretzel maker comes in third, and some young person they've mentored comes in first, which was nice. It doesn't even live in Pretzelville. So that was a satisfying story. Let's see. Then we went on, I guess this was our last attraction here. 9:30, 9:45, we went on something else, but I can't read that. But 9:30, we went on Mesmerizing. And that one, again, was multi-layered, very long, at the far, far back of the park. And we did have to take a break. I think we got a snack, we got some drinks, we sat down with some distance because the carnival zone was not Scooter's cup of tea, There's performers that hang out in the carnival zone that Scooter, he said, I'd rather be in the fake prohibition zone than seeing certain beings that would be at a carnival celebrating autumnal joy with the giant shoes and a lot of them in a small car and the squeaky noses and puffy balls and hats. But we got through it and we went to Mesmerizing. And this one was I said, what is this? And it was, you go in And at first you're going in and someone's making a speech. And at this point, it was a bit like the Sleep With Me podcast where they're making a speech about autumn and all the things that could be autumnal and just a long list. But really what they're doing is you're being mesmerized by how dull they are. And you fall asleep, a bit like Sleep With Me, I guess, where you fall into this deep sleep. They use fog effects. They use, ultraviolet black lights and neon paints. And you sink into this world where you go in there and it's all dreams of autumnal joy. Now, this one was very avant-garde. And it also must have had high ceilings because there was like 10-foot things. So you see like different candies talking to you. And that was probably my favorite room. I mean, they were imaginary candies talking about how much they loved Halloween because it gave them purpose in the dancing around and everything. But like a huge. And I don't even know how they did it. If it was puppets or people, or I don't even know. Then there was another room, again, with black lights. So it was cats and dogs and fish, but not real ones, like puppets and people performing. And they were talking about, what is this Halloween? Like they were kind of sitting around. There was even dogs playing poker, which cracked me up. And they're playing poker and they're saying, what is this Halloween? This doesn't even make any sense to me. It's so strange. What are they doing, these humans? They dress up, they give then there was you go into a room and this giant jack-o'-lanterns singing. And I think that one had like a couple different a cappella groups doing it live, or they were actual live a cappella people in those costumes. And then, Leaves, that was another great one. They had like where you could just be in a room where there was leaves falling off a tree. But each time now it was like you had to be patient. I mean, none of it was real, but it was super real, because it was in all neon and the leaves were made out of paper or something. And I don't know how they controlled them, but every once in a while a leaf would fall off a tree. And we're talking, you have to wait 8 or 9 minutes. And the leaf would fall off the tree and it would say, "We," or circle of life, or, I'm going to be, whatever. And so, yeah. And then there was a last part was where you could lie down and you would lie on this thing. You could lie on your back, which was best for your view, or your stomach or your side. And it was a bit like, the things mechanics use that go under cars. It was kind of like that. So each person gets to lie on it, but it's pulled by something. And for a long time, oh boy, it was so relaxing. You just lie there and everyone falls asleep, they say. And you're looking at a fake sky. So you're in a very dark room with black velvet, makes it even seem darker. But then there's like neon clouds and stars and shooting stars and moons and things waving. It's like being in a Sesame Street skit or something. And we wrote it 50 times in a row just to do that part over and over again and rest as we were slowly drifting with a black velvet sky. And friendly stars and moons above us waving with autumnal joy. Now, and that's what they told you after you were done, was this is the autumnal sky. Each room was a different autumnal sky for a different part of the world. And that was what we loved the best at Knott's farm of autumnal joy. Good night, everybody, from your friend Ray and Scooter. All right, I want to thank the people that became patrons recently. Vicky Lee, thank you, thanks, and good night. Janet, thank you, thanks, and good night. Mary, thank you, thanks, and good night. Nora, Thank you, thanks, and good night. Veda, thank you, thanks, and good night. Cassidy, thank you, thanks, and good night. Andrew, thank you, thanks, and good night. David, thank you, thanks, and good night. Abby, thank you, thanks, and good night. Sarah, thank you, thanks, and good night. And Panda, thank you, thanks, and good night. So thanks and good night to everybody who supports the show on Patreon, supports it by other means, supports the sponsors, or supports the show by spreading the word about the podcast, letting people know about it, or letting people know about podcasting in general. All that is huge, a huge support for the podcast. Couldn't do it without it. We grow and podcasts grow by people just letting people know about stuff. So thank you so much. And we've been able to get back to episode, 600 here in the archives, thanks to these Tuck You In sponsors like this one. Thanks. All right, everybody, it's Scoots here, and it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, BetterHelp. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but you've heard me talk about this before. A lot of times I'm focused on problems and not solutions, whether it's with the podcast, whether it's at the grocery store, with my car, interpersonal stuff. I'm never focused. You know what I mean? I'm always thinking, oh boy, how's... So it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when you're faced with a challenge in life, and to see those challenges as opportunity. I mean, really, a lot of times I even roll my eyes when my therapist says, well, maybe this is an opportunity. But when you learn to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. When you really, when I can only speak for me though, when I find that thing and I say, wait a second, this is a chance for me to grow. And I get that through my work with my therapist. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, and that makes it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. And it's something I get to work on every single week. And it helps me to flourish. It positively impacts the people in my life. And it's a resource I would not want to do without. That's one of the reasons I try to recommend therapy to people in my personal life as a resource too. So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/sleepwithme to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. Check it out. Thanks, everybody.